Welcome to today's Explainer. We're looking at a monumental transformation today, how a completely empty piece of land evolves into a literal pinnacle of healthcare excellence. Specifically, we're unpacking the strategic and operational blueprint for building a highly engineered, 300-bed, multi-specialty tertiary care hospital on a 10-acre greenfield site right in Odisha. Look, if you're a healthcare promoter, an investor, or a clinical entrepreneur, this is essentially a masterclass in market timing, spatial design, and institutional underwriting.
So here's the roadmap for our due diligence today. 1. The Odisha healthcare gap. 2. The 300-bed master plan. 3. Technology and operational engine. 4. Financials and return profile. And 5. Execution and expansion strategy. Let's get straight to it.
Section 1. The Odisha healthcare gap. Demand drivers and disease burden.
2,03,496. I really want that number to sink in for a second. That is the projected total bed deficit in Odisha by the year 2030. We are looking at a state with a population pushing 50 million people, add an expanding middle class, rising private insurance penetration, and highly predictable government scheme volumes to the mix. The demographic momentum here is just undeniable, and frankly, it demands formal, structured healthcare capacity immediately.
Okay, let's dive into this. Advanced care in Odisha is heavily geographically clustered around urban centers. Think Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. Because of this uneven access, you have massive, densely populated districts left completely dependent on fragmented referral pathways. And the gap isn't just about raw bed counts. It's actually a massive structural capability deficit. Patients are literally traveling hours just to find an available ICU bed or to get advanced diagnostic imaging. It's a huge bottleneck. And the actual type of care people need, well, that's shifting dramatically too. We're seeing a major epidemiological transition toward non-communicable chronic diseases. What does this mean for us? It means the core demand is for high acuity interventions. We're talking complex cardiology, oncology, neurosciences, orthopedics, trauma, and really robust critical care. The market doesn't need just another basic clinic. It needs a regional referral hospital built around centers of excellence that stops patients from having to cross state lines for treatment. Moving right along to Section 2, the 300-bed master plan, campus layout and clinical model.
So, optimizing a 10-acre greenfield site requires some absolutely strict strategic zoning. The clinical blocks here are deliberately designed to maximize the floor area ratio, or FAR, for peak revenue generation. You'll notice clearly defined standard entries for patients, which are completely separated from dedicated emergency ambulance routes, and of course, mandatory fire safety access roads. But importantly, there are designated green zones left specifically for future expansion. That means this facility can scale up massively without you ever needing to acquire a single new piece of land. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the commercial logic behind the bed distribution. It's fascinating. Out of 300 beds, a full 30% are dedicated to critical care, your ICUs, HDUs, and ICUs. This right here is your high-yield engine. Then another 20% are premium private rooms and suites, acting as your high-margin drivers. The remaining 50%? Those are volume wards, crucial to maintaining high throughput and accommodating government scheme patients. It's basically a perfectly balanced clinical mix, engineered to optimize both community impact and financial returns.
Section 3. Technology and operational engine, driving clinical execution.
A beautiful building is essentially useless without precise operational engineering, especially when we're talking about manpower. Delivering safe tertiary care requires incredibly strict staffing ratios. For ICUs, you absolutely must maintain a 1-to-1 nurse-to-bed ratio, period. In normal inpatient wards, that scales out to about 1-to-6. And here's the golden planning rule from our sources. You have to add a massive 45% buffer to your baseline staff counts. That accounts for off days, shifts, and ensures uninterrupted 24/7 service provision all year round. And while the human touch is what actually delivers the healing, technology is what runs the hospital. At the very core of our break-even efficiency is a smart command center. This integrates the hospital information system, electronic medical records, and picture archiving for your imaging. By digitally tying together your medical specialists, the nursing staff, and the administrative wings, you drastically reduce patient wait times, you increase surgical throughput, and you plug those pesky revenue leakages right from day one.
All right, let's talk numbers. Section 4. Financials and return profile, capital expenditure and ramp up.
For those of you actively analyzing the investment thesis today, The total projected project cost is between 300 and 350 crore Indian rupees. Now, this encompasses the entire life cycle of establishing this premier facility. We're talking everything from civil construction and complex MEP engineering, all the way to top-tier medical equipment and IT infrastructure. Yes, it's a significant capital deployment, but it is scaled perfectly for the regional economics of a Tier 1 city in Odisha.
Of that total capex we just discussed, approximately 80 to 100 crore is dedicated purely to medical equipment. The capital is heavily deployed into high-barrier assets. We're looking at 3T MRIs, 128 slice CT scanners, advanced cath labs from Tier 1 vendors, alongside state-of-the-art modular operating theaters and highly sophisticated critical care ventilators. Make no mistake, this is not a basic diagnostic center. This is a heavy imaging, high-acuity surgical fortress.
So, the crucial point is the stabilized EBITDA margin target of 22%. Once the hospital is matured and operating with optimal utilization and the right payer mix, that 22% is where we land. This entire clinical and spatial architecture is specifically modeled to deliver highly attractive returns, projecting an internal rate of return, or IR, somewhere between 18 and 21%.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we get there. To get from gross revenue down to that projected operating profit, you have to carefully navigate your operational costs. Salaries take the largest portion for sure, followed by utilities, consumables, and maintenance. But by actively managing these operating expenses against a high-throughput, high-acuity revenue stream, the financial model projects a very realistic break-even period of just 3.5 years.
Finally, Section 5, Execution and Expansion Strategy, from 300 beds to regional platform. Execution de-risking is literally everything in healthcare infrastructure. You don't just build a hospital and then ask for permission. You sequence it through a very strict 24-month dependency-driven roadmap. Municipal approvals and fire no objection certificates come first, right in month 1. That's followed by environmental and technical clearances. This leads right up to clinical establishment registration and pre-entry quality certification by the NABH right around month 24. Following this structured approach is what prevents multi-million-dollar delays. Let's move to and see how this builds out over a 10-year horizon on that exact same 10-acre plot. Growth happens in distinct phases. Horizon 1 establishes the 300-bed tertiary foundation and your brand dominance. Horizon 2 expands capacity to 500 beds and launches an affiliated nursing college, which is brilliant because it secures a proprietary talent pipeline. And then Horizon 3 transforms the entire campus into an apex destination, featuring a dedicated oncology center, organ transplant capabilities, and a full medical college. To summarize our ultimate investment thesis here today, we are looking at a truly unprecedented market opportunity driven by a massive, structurally real bed deficit in Odisha. This is met with a turnkey, highly engineered 300-bed master plan that significantly de-risks execution from day one. And because of that expansive 10-acre campus design we mapped out earlier, the financial upside is essentially uncapped. It allows for massive scaling into a comprehensive healthcare ecosystem without ever having to buy new land. Look, the demographics are shifting rapidly. The demand for complex care in Odisha is absolutely surging. And as we've seen, the blueprint for profitability is clearly mapped out. There is a massive structural gap waiting to be filled by institutional capital and clinical excellence. So the only question left for you is, are you ready to capture the upside of this healthcare evolution and initiate formal due diligence today?